November marked our second trip to Mantorville. Our first trip, in the early summer months of 2014, led us to the Restoration House. Built in 1856, the Restoration House is a historic preservation that has many claims of paranormal activity. That night's investigation definitely left an impact on us. What do you think about the Restoration House?
So far, it's been one of the most active places we've investigated. A lot of activity in the basement and some in the upstairs.
All three, as we were setting up equipment, had something happen.
Can you describe what it was that happened?
As we were setting up cameras, we heard something, and all of a sudden it felt like it was about 95 degrees upstairs that night, and it got really cold really fast, and I had goosebumps everywhere, and it just something, the entire feel of that room changed for a moment. It maybe didn't even last 2 minutes. I don't know what you I know you felt something too, Justin, but it was there for a minute and then gone. But it was extreme cold in a really, really hot bedroom.
As we were setting up the IR camera in that master bedroom, I think Brian was setting up the trail cam, and I think, Billy, you and me heard what sounded like a little kid's voice, like say something. I think that was kind of the first thing that I noticed, and then it was 90-some degrees up there, super hot, and I remember you saying that you felt really cold and you had goosebumps, and not too long after you shined that flashlight on your arm and showed me the goosebumps, I remember feeling something kind of brush by my leg almost, and immediately from about thigh down to my toes on both legs went completely numb, like I had been sitting on the floor with my legs stuck underneath me, and then got up, they were just all tingly, and it lasted for maybe 30 seconds, and then it was gone, back to normal again. The following is unedited audio from the experience. Listen right after Billy asks the children if they want to have a seat on the bed.
What do you think, kiddos? Do you like our camera placement? Want to have a seat on the bed?
Did you hear something?
I did. I absolutely did. Brian, move around a little bit more.
There's creaks and cracks to this.
Nope, that's not what it was.
I had this sitting right here.
Do it again.
Do exactly what you were doing.
Higher pitched.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It was like a little kid cry.
Yep. What do you think, kids? Should we put it in a different spot? I get goosebumps all over my body right now.
I did too.
Hey. My legs are freaking numb.
Yep, mine too.
Mine too.
I got. What do you think, kids?
Keep talking.
Good spot? You want us to move them? Oh my god. You want us to move them around a little bit? Or should we keep them right where they are?
Oh my god, my legs are numb.
Mine are too.
I could cut glass over here. Okay, we can
I've
move
never
some
had
more.
this feeling before. My legs are completely numb.
Well, that is on right now.
Yes, it is. And we absolutely heard that noise. There was a noise.
With that experience still fresh in our minds, we were obviously excited to get back to Mantorville and into the Restoration House in an effort to try and dig a little bit deeper into the odd happenings there and to see if we could experience something like that again. Little did we know, however, our night was going to begin at a different historic location in Mantorville, one just down the street from the Restoration House, one with its own unique claims of paranormal activity. The Hubble House Restaurant. The original 16 by 24 foot log structure was built in 1854 by a man named John Hubble, who was traveling westward from the Mississippi River to what is now St. Peter, Minnesota. He and Frank Mantor were the ones who staked the original claim to what is now the town of Mantorville. 2 years later, in 1856, Hubble constructed the current 3-story structure that you see in Mantorville today. It immediately became an important stopping place along the trail from the Mississippi River to St. Peter. It's become kind of a tradition of ours that when we're in Mantorville for an investigation, we begin the night with a meal at the Hubble House. That's where we met our contact person for the night, Melissa Ferris. Melissa is a local historian in Mantorville who has worked for the Mantorville Theater Company and the Restoration Association. She has been our guide on both of our trips to Mantorville. We were also meeting with Ted Schmidt and Jonathan Kagas, two members of the KTTC news team out of Rochester, Minnesota. They were joining us that night in an effort to document our investigation and develop a news story highlighting the haunted locations in Mantorville. With the help of Melissa and through the generosity of the Pappas family who own the restaurant, we were given access to the Hubble House's second and third floors. The third floor was in the process of being renovated during the time of our investigation, and interestingly enough, one of the workers that had been up there about a week prior to our visit claimed to make contact with a full-bodied apparition of a female spirit named Lydia. The worker also claimed that Lydia was approximately 14 years old and claimed to have a full conversation with the spirit. So with that information in hand, we were really excited to get up there and see if we could make contact with this spirit or the spirit of anyone else who might still be at the Hubble House. Before we start into the evidence from that night, I just want to remind everybody that it might be easier for you to hear the EVPs that we have on here if you throw on a pair of headphones and turn the volume up on your computer or wherever you're watching this. And hopefully you'll be able to hear the stuff that we picked up during our evidence review. The first clip we have to show you from that night is from the main hallway of the third floor of the Hubble House. What you'll see in the clip is Brian walking down the hallway, and at one point he hears an odd moan coming from a room off to his left. And you'll see him react to it and make a comment about he heard some sort of creaking or squeaking or something in that room. But we'll play it for you, see if you can pick up what we're referring to.
Heard a creaking as I was walking by.
The next piece of evidence we have also came from the third floor. And this happened after we had all left the third floor for a while and gone down to the second floor. And Melissa had agreed to go back up to the third floor by herself in an effort to try and make contact with the supposed female spirit that was up there. Our thoughts were that if we just sent her up there, maybe the female spirit would be a little bit more comfortable interacting. So what you'll see in the clip is the main hallway on the third floor, and you'll hear Melissa coming back up the stairs from the second floor, and she's holding a K2 meter in her hand, and as she's climbing the stairs, she stops because the meter all of a sudden spiked up to 4 lights, and you'll hear right around that time, right about the time she stops, you'll hear a voice, and it sounds like it's saying "go away" or something to that effect. It's really fast. See if you can make out what we're referring to.
It's just me coming back up the stairs again. Oh, hi there. So the light just went back up to 4. Oh, hi there. Oh, hi there. Oh, hi there. Oh, hi there.
The next few clips we have to show came from the room where the worker claimed to make contact with the female spirit. This is a series of questions asked by Ted from KTTC News, and there seems to be responses to the questions that he's asking, and to us it sounds like there's a real faint female voice that is responding to three specific questions that he asked. I have to admit they're very faint. They're pretty tough to hear, but if you throw your headphones on and, like I said, turn the volume up, hopefully you'll be able to make out what it is that we made out.
How old are you? What year is it? Are you angry?
So the first part of the clip here, you'll hear Ted ask, "How old are you?" If you listen close, we get what sounds like a female quickly say 14, kind of high pitched, kind of quick. Listen, we'll play it multiple times and see if you can pick up the 14.
How old are you?
The second question Ted asks is, "What year is it?" And this one is probably the hardest response to hear out of the three. If you listen really close, you can kind of make out a longer, drawn out, "I don't know." Again, it's probably the toughest one to hear. Listen close and see if you can pick up the response that we heard.
What year is it?
The last question that Ted asks is, "Are you angry?" And he was referring to whether or not the spirit actually wanted us up there or wanted to communicate with us. So he asked if she was angry. And to me, this is the easiest of the three to pick up as far as the response goes. If you listen close, it sounds like a female responding with the phrase, "Yes, I'm angry." Again, we'll play it for you multiple times, see if you can pick up what we heard.
Are you angry?
We actually had one other experience that night that unfortunately we were unable to capture on audio or video. At one point, Brian and Ted and I believe Jonathan were up in the room where supposedly the apparition of Lydia was seen, and myself and Bill and Melissa were down on the second floor below that room. And at one point, those of us on the second floor heard a loud bang coming from right above us. It almost sounded like one of the guys upstairs had fallen down or tripped or dropped something really heavy. It was a significant bang, enough to where I went to the door to the upper level, and I called up to Brian and the guys that were up there, and I asked if everyone was okay. Turns out they had no idea what we were talking about, and they didn't hear any sort of bang from up on that level at the time. Like I said, interesting personal experience. Unfortunately, we were unable to document that with our equipment, but another good story, good experience that we did have that night. So that wraps up the evidence that we were able to capture on audio or video from the Hubble House that night. Unfortunately, we were unable to have a face-to-face interaction with the female spirit, supposedly known as Lydia. However, I guess it is possible that the responses that Ted got to his questions could have possibly been her. It's hard to tell. But after a solid 4 to 5 hours of investigating, it was time for us to head to our second location of the night, just up the street at the Restoration House. So as I mentioned before, the Restoration House has numerous claims of paranormal activity. In the upper level of the house, there are claims of children playing, sitting on the bed. There's also claims of an older spirit, possibly a parent of the children that resides up there. There's also a lot of activity in the basement, which actually housed the first and only jail cell ever built in Dodge County. The original jail cell is actually still down in the basement. During our first investigation in Mantorville, during the summer, we actually had a lot of activity in the basement area around some old wash tubs. A lot of activity with K2 meter responses, flashlight responses, and all that can be seen on our website, www.johnsdaleparanormalgroup.com, if you are interested in checking out that evidence. It definitely didn't take long for the odd happenings to start when we entered the Restoration House for the night. One of the first things that happened was as we were getting ready to set up our equipment and go up to the upper level for the first time of the night, Bill and I were climbing the staircase to the upper level, and we noticed that a light had been turned on. One of the table lamps had been turned on, and we didn't think this was a light that was normally left on. So you'll see from the clip here that we verified with Melissa as to whether or not this was something normal, and you'll see her response here. By the way, if there is something weird.
Melissa, did you turn on a light upstairs?
I did not.
There's a light on upstairs.
And that's really weird because I've been looking at the windows up here all night from the Hubble House and nothing was on. I haven't been upstairs.
Let's check.
Okay.
Guys, that wasn't on when I came in here.
No.
There's no way that was on when we came in here because I would have seen it.
It's the lamp on the table.
And that's not one of those that's hyper easy to turn on.
Oh, wow. Hello.
We're back, kids.
Hey, everybody.
So having this happen within the first 5 to 10 minutes of us being at the Restoration House, it kind of had our senses heightened, so to speak, right off the bat. So as Bill and I approached the upper level, I was leading the way with our thermal imaging camera in hopes of catching a heat signature from the children who are claimed to be up there playing or sitting on the bed in the master bedroom, or possibly another spirit who resides up there. As you see me go through the upper level, you'll see me taking a look at the bed, and there's nothing out of the ordinary. However, there is a small office or sitting room right off the edge of the master bedroom. There happens to be a chair in there, and as I pan the thermal imaging camera to that room, you'll notice on the chair there seems to be a different colored spot on the seat. On the camera, it appears to be kind of a bright white, which would indicate a warmer area than the rest of the chair, which would indicate that someone or something had been sitting on the edge of the chair. So you'll see the footage here, and you'll see what we were referring to.
Where do you want it?
I would say probably right in here. Hey. Look at that.
There's a heat signature on that chair.
Yep.
Brian, go touch it.
Strong.
Look at that. Okay.
Hi, is this you sitting in a chair?
In this next clip, we have a camera set up in one of the rooms of the upper level, and it's filming through the center room into the master bedroom. You can see we're all in there and we're inspecting the bed in the master bedroom. One of the common claims in there is that you can see the imprint of somebody that had either been sitting or had been laying on the bed. So we're in there and we're inspecting the bedspread, and you'll notice what sounds like someone coming up really close to the camera in that other room and basically telling us to shush, or to, you know, kind of the shh, or be quiet. Go ahead and take a listen. I think you'll definitely hear what we're referring to. This next clip is pretty interesting, and it's going to take some explanation. But what's happening here is we're all sitting in the main room of the upper floor of the house. And in the screenshot, you're going to notice to the left that Bill is sitting in a chair, and across the room on the floor is Melissa. And we also have Brian and Ted, who are sitting on the floor in the room out of the screenshot of the camera. I am standing at the top of the stairs, and Bill and I have a line of sight kind of down the stairs to the lower level of the house, or the main level of the house. And both of us at different times were seeing what kind of looked like odd flashes of light coming from down there. And you'll see in the clip here that, you know, we kind of both comment on it. And at one point, I had turned and looked back down the stairs, and I saw what was a perfectly round, circular, bright ball of light right in the middle of the staircase, and it almost looked like it was coming up toward me, enough for me to kind of jump back in reaction to it. And you'll see on the clip here that you'll see my reaction, and then shortly after that, the batteries in the camera were totally drained. And even though we didn't catch what it was that I saw during this clip, it actually did appear on film, and we'll show you that here in a few clips. But take a look at this clip, and it'll kind of set up what's going to come.
You seen that?
Didn't see that one.
You're seeing lights flickering or flashing?
Yep. But not consistent.
Can you do that again? Did you just come upstairs? That's okay if you did.
That's a pretty neat trick. Did you turn that flashlight on?
Whoa, I saw that one.
There was one downstairs as well?
Yeah.
Did you just turn it on?
Holy cow!
Yeah, the flashlight turned off at the same time that you saw the flash
There was
downstairs.
one like right on the stairs. So this next clip we have to show actually happened right after the batteries had drained on that camera, right after I saw the ball of light on the stair steps. And this was actually taken from the camera that we had set up in the master bedroom. I had gone back down to the lower level to grab a replacement battery for the camera that had just drained. So the camera in the master bedroom is picking up audio of what's going on in the main center room there. and you can hear, Brian is out there, and they're kind of setting up the K2 meter, the flashlight, some other pieces of equipment, and you'll hear him say something to the effect of, okay, you can go ahead and play with any of those pieces of equipment, trying to make a connection possibly with the children that are up there. And shortly after he says that, you'll hear what sounds like a little kid's voice say, okay, in response to him letting them know that they can play with the equipment. So go ahead and take a listen to this and see if you can pick up what we're referring to.
Now you can touch any of those toys.
Once we got the camera battery changed out and we were back up and rolling, Billy started to conduct another EVP session in hopes of communicating further with any spirit that was there at the time. And you'll notice in this clip that Melissa is still sitting on the floor on the opposite side of the room as the camera. And if you focus on her during this clip, you'll see that circular, bright ball of light, the same thing that I saw on the steps a few clips earlier, manifest right next to her head. And you'll see it form, and it kind of moves off to the left and then disappears. Like I said, that's the exact same thing that I saw on the steps, that I reacted to. And the odd thing is that it showed up on camera in this clip. However, we didn't see it at the time. We did not see it in the room with us. So that's a little odd. And we ruled out this being like one of our flashlights or something like that, because had it been, it would have, the flashlight would have illuminated the entire room, and it definitely would have illuminated Melissa's face or head or whatever had it been pointed at her. So this is definitely not coming from any of our equipment. But go ahead and take a look at the clip, and you'll see what we're talking about. And the last few are slowed down to about half speed, so you can really see what we're talking about.
Well, good evening, or good morning, I guess. We are back on the second level.
This next clip is actually the last piece of evidence that we have to show from our night in Mantorville. In my opinion, it's also one of the more compelling pieces of evidence that we've caught to date. In this clip, part of it is time-lapsed, so you can kind of see where we are and what we're doing during this time. And the way the clip starts, you'll see myself and Jonathan and Brian on the main level of the house, and Brian and Jonathan are in the front parlor room next to the front door, and I'm changing out the batteries of the camera in the dining room. At this time, we were also changing batteries out on the cameras on the upper floor of the house. So you'll kind of see in the first part of the clip here that I'm changing out some batteries, and I think Brian and Jonathan are grabbing some batteries for some other cameras. You'll see a time lapse of, when I go upstairs to change the two camera batteries upstairs, and you'll see Brian and Jonathan leave the house. And then when I come back down, you'll see it in real time, and I just wanted to point out that you'll see me go to the front door and leave the house, shut the door, and I actually deadbolt the door as I leave. And the reason we wanted to show you this is that we'll time lapse after that point to show you that nobody else entered the house during this time prior to what happens that we want you to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go upstairs and grab those. Batteries are over on the floor in that black box. The second time lapse in this clip here is a duration of about 8.5 minutes from the time that I left the main level of the restoration house and locked the door. What you're going to hear in this clip is pretty amazing as far as I'm concerned. This is the actual foot pedal pump organ that sits in the front parlor room of the restoration house. And if you're looking at the clip, right through the doorway from the dining room into the front parlor room, this organ sits just off to the right as you walk by. In order for this organ to make a sound, the foot pedal has to be pumped up to build up enough pressure for the keys to make a noise. During our investigation, nobody had touched this organ. In this clip, you'll hear what sounds like somebody maybe possibly playing with the key cover, and shortly after that you'll hear what sounds like a single piano note being played, along with what sounds like a child's voice possibly trying to sing along with it. Shortly after that, you're going to hear another female voice come across that says the phrase, "It just makes sense." To us, that's pretty impressive. Go ahead and take a listen and see if you make out what we heard during this time. Take a listen again to the first part of this clip. We'll play it a few times for you. Listen for the piano note and the child's voice trying to sing along with it, kind of at the same time. The second part of the clip that we'll play for you is the female voice. Listen for the phrase, "It just makes sense." Throughout our years of investigating, we've been to a lot of historic locations, and a lot of the historic locations we've been to have had pianos or organs like this, and I always thought it would be kind of cool to hear a ghost or a spirit actually play one, and I think we might have finally caught that here at the restoration house. Definitely a really interesting piece of evidence for us, and it definitely lends some credence or validity to the claims that are present there. That concludes the evidence review from our night in Mantorville. We had a great investigation at both locations. We owe a huge thanks to Melissa Ferris and the Mantorville Restoration Association, as well as the Pappas family and the Hubble House Restaurant for allowing us in there for the night. We also want to thank Ted Schmidt and Jonathan Kagas from KTTC News in Rochester, Minnesota, for joining us on our investigation that night. If you like this video and you want to check out the evidence from any of our other investigations, feel free to visit our website at www.johnsdaleparanormalgroup.com or follow us on Facebook or Twitter at JohnsdalePG for more information.